Hi friends, welcome to the weekly Uno platform live streaming. We're taking a look at code from the Uno platform and trying to fix issues, to discuss whatever questions that are coming from users on the stream, and looking at news and others. And this week we're going to be taking a look at a few things. The first to just return back onto one of the previous issues that we were discussing last week about WebView2. So actually we have two WebView2 issues this week that we can take a look depending on the time that we're going to spend on each. And the second one will be taking a look at Ubuntu Mate. There are a few issues that have been open recently about Ubuntu Mate. It's not a distribution that we test regularly on, but it may be of interest to taking a look at what the experience is on this particular platform and distribution specifically, and see what we can fix if there are any issues that can arise on this one. So let's take a look at the issue that we were discussing last week. I actually continued to work on it for a bit, trying to fix the issue. So the issue was about execute script async that was causing trouble, and the fix was about making sure that we were able to execute script async on multiple platforms, and particularly the issue was on the web, where if you want to execute some JavaScript inside of the web view that you instantiated, that it would execute properly and return you the value of the execution of the script that you put inside. And the problem that we had last point, bonjour Belgad, hi, thanks for joining. And the issue was that executing that particular method was causing trouble for a few reasons. First, the execution could actually cause, would not run, and that was actually caused by the fact that the method name in the interrupt was incorrect. The name of the function that was in the JavaScript code was not the right one, so naming it properly would actually make it execute properly. But the second problem that arose afterwards was the fact that there are actually multiple issues, but the issue was about the fact that the wait for loaded here, I'm sorry, the one below. So the navigation completed was not really saying that navigation was completely completed, but that the content was actually showing up, but not necessarily enough. And we're hooking onto it the events that are coming from the underlying web view, so the iframe, but it's not reporting the right things, and the execution of the script is not returning the right value. So for the purpose of the test, so that we can validate that the behavior is the right one, the last change that we were trying to make was to loop inside execute script async until we get the right value. So I made up modifications along the week, and in between many other things that are happening in Uno. And I didn't know that when we're executing script async, the return value is actually a JSON formatted string. So if it's just a simple string, it's going to be quoted. And so we needed to make multiple modifications, particularly this one, which is we know it's going to return a string, and then we need to escape it and then quote it. So for the purpose of the test, the change is going to be only to actually have removed the quotes for the validation, to make sure that we're returning effectively nothing. And then validate that we're ensuring that the strings are quoted when doing the equals, to ensure that they are at the right values. The other targets, iOS, Android, already have that modification, and it's working properly. So that's what we need at that point. And we need to wait a little bit, because in some cases it could take a bit more than a few seconds, depending on the CI environment, which may run a bit slower. So 10 seconds is overly large, but who knows? In some cases, it may take a bit longer. So that's the kind of change that was there, and it's almost there. Just making sure that it runs on all targets, and I think it should be available very soon. So that's for WebView2, at least as a follow-up from last week. Now, what we're going to take a look is a user that was reporting Light Wizard that was hanging, and two other errors on Linux. So the first issue was that the user was trying to execute a few things and install UnoCheck. So we're going to pretty much try to do the same thing on Ubuntu made. So I just installed a blank version of this in a VM. And we're gonna pretty much do the same thing that the user did in there and see if there's anything that that needs to change in some way. So in our case, we're gonna be installing .NET. So let's just follow the installation step that can be found on .NET. So in our case, we're gonna search for install .NET 9. And we're going to just follow the setup for .NET. So Ubuntu Mate is a derivative of Ubuntu, and it uses the same feeds as the ones that are provided by the official Ubuntu. And we're going to try to do pretty much the same thing and see if we get the same kind of installation features there. So we're going to be installing using Ubuntu, but I'm not sure if we can decide to install, decide how to install .NET. So we're going to be using installation here. So there's so the version that we have here is not really the same one. So I think I installed it 2404. So let's go for that one. Let's see first if it's installed by default. Maybe I tend to think it's not, but let's see if we have it. Okay, so .NET's not there, and we can see that Ubuntu is suggesting to install some of it. There's a version using snap and another one using the plain apt install, using the standard packaging. But I want to see if we can install .NET 9. So there's one with .NET backports, so using that PPA technique. So let's try to do that one, and so we can install that particular version. Okay, so we want to use, so what is this? Build enter migrates to enter. Okay, so that's good. So we're installing a few things here. Okay, great. So it used the right feeds, and then we want to install the latest .NET SDK. Let's do this here. What's the There's no control set keys here. Control Shift V in this one. Okay, but there's formatting there. That doesn't work. That's interesting. It's copying formatting. That's not what I wanted. So if I do paste, will it copy the? Okay, so Control Shift V is pasting the formatting. Not super useful. Okay, so that's good. So we can see that it's actually downloading the .NET 9 runtime. So that's what we needed there. It's pretty slow. In general, what that means is that the apt update has not been run, but I just did it, so it must mean that the original feed for the Launchpad content here is not super fast. That's fine. So let's keep it running. So a few things here. So we're trying to run Uno check, and then there are a few errors that are showing up. So we can see that OpenJDK is not installed. We can see that the Android emulator is not installed. But in this one, it's red because of the fact that OpenJDK is not installed. So we're gonna try to install all of it, and try to get the environment running properly. So the question was at the top, skipping Android SDK. Please advise if it's a critical error. It's not if you're not doing any kind of Android development. In that case, we're probably, I don't think we're going to try. We'll see if it works. We're inside of VM, so I don't know if it's going to be the right thing, but we'll see. The right environment because of virtualization. And then there's a second one with a command that's not running. So with ttf-msc. So that one is when you're installing Uno. So there's a set of commands that you need to run, and there's the ttf-msc that needs to be there. The reason we're asking for that package is because of a specific set of fonts that may be missing. That was there before when we didn't have Open Sans. It's now included by default in Uno, so it may not be needed anymore. We're gonna try to see if it actually causes trouble if we're not installing it. Man, that's slow. That's unusual. And then afterwards, the other issue that the user was having is that running Mozilla Firefox, then the live wizard is not running. So we probably could be doing this while it's installing. So let's go to new.platform.uno and see if it actually works. Maybe Ubuntu Mate is configuring something differently and it doesn't work. So it's stalling at the end. It's not starting properly. Okay, so for some reason, the user's version of new.platform.uno is not working. It is in my VM, so maybe it's a configuration issue somewhere, or maybe it's a version of Ubuntu Mate. There's no version specified in here. Yeah, so there's no version of Ubuntu Mate that's specified, so I don't know. So for those who don't know about new.platform.uno, it's the wizard that allows to make command lines to start Uno applications. So basically, you can do test app here, and then click start, and then you can select all the options that you need to create your application. So change your frameworks, change your platforms, change your presentations and everything, select the theming, extensions, and others. And then once you're done, you click the create button. It will provide you with a command line that you can run on the command line on the terminal to create your application. And you can run that using VS Code or others and debug your application. Okay, so we have .NET. If I do .NET version, we're there. So now let's do the installation of the Uno check tool. So I'm going to do .NET tool, Uno check, tool install. Oop. Install Uno check. And then we're going to be running Uno check and see what kind of errors we're going to get. So depending on the path, it may or may not have been installed. So let's see if we get Uno check there. It's not there, so we have to go find it from the .NET folder. Okay, so it's saying that it found a specific version of the .NET runtime. It's not the right one, so let's see if we should be able to install this. So we ran sudo a few seconds ago. So it installed a new version of .NET. So you can see the 90200 was installed. It wants to install the command line tooling, same thing here. So .NET new template. So basically the command that we have on the pop-up on the side here. Making sure that we have the latest version of the Uno SDK. So it's basically installing the Uno SDK NuGet packages and dependents so that it's actually faster for you to start up your application. You don't need to wait for a lot of stuff to be installed. So we just downloading everything. So it goes, it's easier when you're starting your project. And then finally, we need to install the Android workloads. And MAUI workloads, depending on what you're going to be developing for. And those are needed to be able to develop applications on Android. So we can see at the top that there are two dependencies here. The first one is Android SDK is not installed. The second one is the Android emulator is not installed. So basically, those two cannot be installed because of the fact that OpenJDK is not installed. So we're going to be doing this. So we're going to be installing it after the fix for the workloads has been added. Actually, you could probably just open the link here and go take the different commands. Let's wait for the workloads to be installed. So interestingly, the Android and MAUI Android workloads are quite fast to install, but the reason it takes a bit of time at the end, besides the fact that it downloads, is the fact that the WASM tools contains quite a bit of files, and particularly one particular package, which is called the mscripten cache, and it's a pre-built version of the mscripten cache. So when you're building an application that uses native dependencies or using AOT or things like that, then it's going to be using that particular version of the .NET workloads, and that particular package contains a lot of files. And several thousands of files, and it takes a while to unzip, unfortunately. So that's why it's taking a bit of time there. So it's not the download if you're asking. Okay, can I open another one here? I can open a tab. Okay, that works. Okay, so I'm gonna be downloading the. So can I paste without formatting here? No, it doesn't look like there is. Okay, so that's interesting. So I need to paste it that way. Okay, so let's set up the sources for the JDK, and then we're going to be installing the JDK, but we need to install the JDK 11. So I'm going to be changing the command that's going to be executed, at least the last one, so that we install the 11. So if you can take a look at the list, if you take a look at the tab here, okay, we can see that the installation finished. So that's good. And if you take a look at the list at the top, it says OpenJDK 11 is missing. So you need to install the JDK 11. So all of that is already included in the setup documentation, but I'm just doing it by directly to show what that is. Okay, so let's install JDK 11. So let's go. That's a bit faster. It's not the same installed source that we had on the other end. So 6 megabytes per second. That's good. That's great. Okay, so that user is reporting that particular issue with the wizard not starting, and it's not the first one to have that particular issue. So the thing is that when you're opening an issue and you're not providing any feedback in that context, that makes it a little bit more difficult to troubleshoot. And for that particular error, it could be firewall that's causing issue, could be maybe some configuration like some kind of security setting that you have in Firefox or something like that could cause the issue. So when you're reporting issues with an application not starting, having issues where the application not doing the right thing on web, in general, what you want to do is making sure that you go into the F12 experience and then take a look at the console here, and it's going to tell you what's happening, and if there's an error, and it's likely the case in that context, what the error is, and it's going to show up in the console there. Great. Okay, so now we have our JDK installed, so we can start Uno check again. So we can see this time that Uno check has been detected, and we're going to be installing the Android SDK. Looks like it's going well so far. I see Limnai is here. Thanks for joining. Trying to get to see if everything's running on Ubuntu Mate. So far, it's going great. It's there are no surprises, or at least not in a big way. I mean, we can get the Uno platform tooling running properly, so that's good. We can probably install VS Code. Let's see if we install that on Linux. If there's a way. Ooh. There's a dev and an RPM here. I would have thought that there's probably a version that uses snap. Sudo snap install. I don't know if it's VS Code or code. Let's try code and see if it code is published using classic. Okay. So I need to add that at the end. Snap 20. So it's downloading the snap core. That's fine. Core 20. So it's still running Ubuntu 20 underneath. Okay, so it's still installing command line tooling. So we now have the Android SDK checkup. So this is installed properly. And now we want to create an emulator. Okay, so that is an error for something else. I'm not too sure. So let's see if there's something else that shows up when we run using verbose. Okay, so the Android emulator is saying, okay, so there's a version of Java that needs to be present on the system, and Java runtime only recognizes 55. So it means that we're going to have to install the Java version that's a bit older than that. So let's install the default version. I think it was 21. Okay, let's install the version 21, so we have both. Okay, great. So I think it installed VS Code. So do we have code installed? There we go. We have VS Code installed. That is great. So far it's doing good. So we need to install the Uno extension. Okay, so we can trust the publisher. Okay, so 21 has been installed. So let's restart the testing and see if it works better. Okay, that's great. Oh, that's a lot of okay, so it looks like we already have a lot of emulators installed, or at least the form factor is available. That's interesting. Let's create it. Okay, so that's good. We're green. So the only two things that we're missing, so we had to install OpenJDK 11 and 21. So probably gonna have to adjust the documentation there and see so that developers don't get lost there. Okay, so now we have Uno platform installed here. We can just open a terminal and use the command line that we had for our test application here. We're just gonna create a recommended app, and in our terminal, let's paste this to create our test app. It should be restoring pretty well. It's going to be downloading a few things with the dependence of Uno that may not have been already installed by Uno. Check, there you go. And if we go to test app, I'm going to be opening code again. And then at that point, we should be seeing a few things about, so this is a dev kit that's asking for sign in. So we don't need that for now. We see that Uno is available. It's running properly. It's asking for a specific project to be loaded. That's good as well. So we're going to be selecting that. So it's selecting Android by default, but let's not do that for now. We're going to try desktop to see if it works properly. We're not going to be signing in for now. And we go to debugging experience and select the desktop debug, and let's see if we get our application running. So far it's going great. We have our build running, and we have our application running with everything going great. And hot design is not running here because I have not signed in, but it's doing what it's supposed to do, so that's good. So it looks like Ubuntu made is pretty much the same thing as the original behavior. Oh, no. And then it's doing great. I don't know. Is it this particular machine that has trouble with space? Oh yeah. Okay, that's the. I'm gonna have to take a look at that particular machine and make some space. It's probably because I installed a few things on the VM that it's causing trouble. Okay, great. So this is running properly, and let's take a look quickly at Android and see if we get something running properly there. So if I choose Android and it's running the emulator 35, that's the only one that's installed. Let's see if it's running. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so what does it say? Building. You need to install JDK version 17. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, looks like there's a need for another one. Okay. Let's install 17 as well. I'm surprised that it's saying that on the specific version. So maybe there's something else. Oh, maybe it's because the default version that is specified here is is incorrect. I wonder, so because I installed the JDK 17, then 21, it bumped the default version to 21. So maybe now if I'm installing the version for 17 afterwards, maybe it's going to default back to 17. Probably there's a, we may have to set the Java version by default. I would have thought that .NET would select the right version by default, but that doesn't look like it is. So let's try again and see if it helps. It looks like it's better. Yeah, it is definitely better. So the screen is a bit too small for seeing all the messages, but that looks okay. So is it normal? So TKS3D is asking, is that normal that Uno check skips some default check by default, like Python getting not required by this configuration? So yes, this is something that we've been trying to figure out a right balance for. So Python, Git, and a few others are actually needed if you're building for .NET 8. If you're running for .NET 9, which is the default, so when you're creating an application, it's going to be doing .NET 9, then it's not needed. So this is something that we're going to be removing once we do get rid of .NET 8. But for now, the reason it does show up is that Uno check can run as part of Visual Studio of VS Code and other platforms. So it's kind of going to set itself up to validate, and you can probably see that one in the output console here. Let me see, it's in there. So we're running Uno check, and we're explicitly determining what the targets are, which target are used by your current application. And if you're not using any of those, like if you're not using Browser, Wasm, or others, let's say you're just doing desktop, for instance, then you're not going to be bothered by Uno check asking you to install anything there. So it's kind of removing the checks by default, and that makes it easier. So it looks like it's not starting anything. Oh, okay, cannot match device. Okay, so it's not starting the emulator. It's probably just something else. We've been looking at an update Android emulator manager that was included inside of Android emulator launch. I think it's that one. I don't remember exactly which one that was. Yeah, I think it's that one. So that which allows you to install your to launch your emulators properly without and launch it from the tooling here. So we can see, let's see, run Android emulator. Is there one there? Oh, Android home is not defined. Okay, so that may be because I started the app in a terminal that doesn't have the proper variable. So let's close the terminal and try it again so that it has everything set up at the right places. So if I do this and do code again, let's see if I do run Android emulator. Okay, so it's not defined. I need to specify the Android environment variable. Okay, I could try to set it before I'm starting everything up. So let's do Android home. So I don't remember exactly where that one is set, but we can find it out by rerunning Uno check. So .NET tools. If we're in verbose mode, we're gonna see the path that is used for the Android SDK. So the Android SDK is located. I think we can see it here. Android SDK, Android emulator. Okay, so the Android SDK is located here. So I need to set that particular environment variable here. So if I do this, do set Android home, launch code again. And if I do run the Android emulator, no, Android home's not set again. I wonder if it's because it's launched as part of a you need to export because it's launched as part of a snap, so I don't know if it inherits the okay, it's set properly. So let's see. No, still not configured. So it looks like code is not picking it up for some reason. That may be because it's running as part of Snap. Maybe there's just a configuration somewhere that we can set there. The settings. Android. No, there's nothing. Okay, so not going to change it here. Probably could change it somewhere else by sitting in the bash RC, but I'm not going to do that. But so far it's doing the right thing. So probably just a little bit of adjustments with regards to Android 11 default installations, validations, so we can figure that one out. Okay, so I see McNitz is asking if I'm not wrong, you could run a WinUI Uno app in VS Code. Has that feature been removed? No. Are you Is it a WinUI question I'm sorry, a Windows question specifically, or is it because you're not able to run it anywhere, including Windows? That could be. Because the thing is that it's a Windows question. Okay, so if it's a Windows question, technically the fact that you're selecting the desktop debug should be enough. But the thing is that, let me check. Maybe I don't know if we changed anything in that regard. Platform WebAssembly desktop. Let's go figure it out. I don't recall. So maybe there's something that we broke somewhere in the templates. So in the templates we have the source files for the template. I'm going to take a look at the Uno app project here, specific template, and then in lodge.json we should be having something that is specific for WinUI, but doesn't look like it is. The thing is that for VS Code, there's a problem with WinUI with regards to starting it with and without the MS build. And the problem is that if you're trying to run your application with the MS build, with .NET build, then we'll kind of behave incorrectly. So I think that we removed it temporarily until we get the .NET build versus MS build debugging story straight. I mean, in general, it's best to debug individuals to do at this time because it's VS Code is not something that the Windows team is kind of super fond of at this point. So, but it may change in the future. We'll see. Okay, so it's looking pretty good at that point. So there's the only thing that was about the TTF MSC. So let's just validate that last part. So the command that needs to be used is, so if we go to platform.uno, then we do the get started, there's a setup for VS Code, and then in your environment, there's a few things to install, and that's that list here. The thing is, that particular list is not the same one I was there before. So I wonder where that specific list comes on, because I think we removed it because it was there before. So maybe that's interesting. So I wonder where that documentation comes from. It feels like it's an old version, but not supposed to be there, because I can see that we're not requesting it anymore. let's see if there's a what kind of packages. So we see that libgl1 mesa glx has no installation source, so we can probably try to remove that one. Okay, so it's trying to install okay, TTF core fonts. There's TTF MS core fonts, but that's it. Okay, so it's let's see, but it doesn't look like there were issues with the application running, so we're good. So installing them would probably not change anything. I mean, the only thing is that if you disable Open Sans, then at that point it will go back to use the system fonts, but that's not the case. That's not supposed to be the case. So let's just rerun the app again quickly and see if there's anything that that shows up incorrectly, but that shouldn't be the case. Great, just built, and the application is running properly. And if we have the fonts there, so that's good. Yeah, it's looking okay. Great. So we're good for that part. We can go and take a look at the second issue. I'm going to be stopping my VM here because I don't need it anymore. So the second issue that was raised was about WASM and clicking a thumb on slider colors when running WebView2, and some selection blue is happening when moving. So I'm not too sure exactly what that means. So we're going to try to repro that one. Okay, so let's see. Slider issue. Okay, so the slider issue. Okay, so there's no. Okay, so that's the kind of repro that is a bit more complex to manage because there's no solution. It's just the CS project, not the environment above. So it's gonna make it kind of makes it more difficult to troubleshoot. So let's create a solution that has the same name, and just we're gonna be copy pasting the files over. So it's called slider issue. It feels like it says blank template, so let's copy the same thing, blank template. Great. Okay, so we're there. Let's close Visual Studio, and we're gonna pick up the files from the slider issue here and paste that over our files, and let's open it again. Okay, so in our main page, what do we have? We have a stack panel, we have a WebView2, we have a slider below. Okay, so we have the WebView2 and a slider below. We have the WebView2 that's a specific size. It's not named, which means that there's not gonna be anything inside. And so we have visual bounce padding, but that's a safe area. It's not a big problem there. We can probably remove that for now. Actually, let's keep it somewhere else, somewhere below, just in case. Just in case it's relevant to the issue. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. It's an old template for what I can see. Because it's using, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so would it mean that it's a selection? That's interesting. Okay, so let's try to determine if it's actually a selection. So I think it's target, no, it's a URL maybe, no, a source it is. Let's put a source. So if I start that again, Let's see what happens. Okay, so definitely selection. Okay, so that would mean that once if we're clicking here, for some reason it's selecting the content above. Oh, that's interesting. So it's kind of selecting it and then. Ooh. Okay, so let's move. So if we move the slider above, does it do something different? Looks like my hot reload is having some trouble. Let's see what's there. Yeah, it didn't find any changes. That's curious. Okay, so if it's above, there's no problem. But let's say, so if I just do this, doesn't happen. Okay, so it's really a positioning thing. Okay, so if I put a border, specific height there. So I have a specific height and okay, so it's still happening. So it's kind of flowing, selecting the context above. Let's see, is that related to the fact that it's inside of the same div maybe? So maybe it's because it's inside the same div. So if I put it inside of a different stack panel, maybe. So let's say if I do a stack panel like this, and so if I do stack panel like that, create another one like this. So if I have an encompassing stack panel, so I'm separating the two. So WebView is not in stack panel as the slider. Does that have an impact? Still has an impact. It's interesting because it's not at the same level, but still doing some selection above. Maybe there's a way to prevent that selection from happening, but that's interesting because we're never allowing selection to happen. Okay, so it happens when the pointer gets into the circle of the slider. That is very interesting. So it doesn't happen above, it happens below. I'm not too sure what happens there. So I know that we have inside of Uno modification styles that allow that prevent the selection from happening. So let's say if you put a text block here, so I see that hot reload is happening. Is it going to be picking up the changes this time? It's still. Okay. Web tools exception. Okay, so there's a few other issues. Okay, that's not fun. Okay, so we have a text here, and we try to select it. It's not going to be selecting. But so interestingly, it selects the web view, but does not select the text here. So maybe there's an option that can be set somewhere to allow for the selection to happen differently. So if I do this, so we can see the selection still here because it's grayed out. So I wonder Is it? So if I remove the document here, can I remove the document? No, I can't remove the document. I can do it from here. No, I can't remove the document from here. Okay, selection's still here. So it's definitely something that has to do with the iframe directly. So if we go to the test element, so there's something about selection. So we get user select set to none. So maybe it's something that we need to set directly on the iframe. So if we do select none, oh, there you go. Select none is helping, but the thing is that we've kind of messed it up because the loading of the content of the document is not here anymore. So let's do it again. We're going to be changing the style of the control. So if I select that control here and I change the iframes style and I set it here to user select none. I go back in my app. Now, if I do select the slider, then the selection doesn't happen. And I can still interact with the web view. That was the point, because if I couldn't interact with the web view, that would have been a trouble. But the web view's content was still there, so it's not selecting anything. Okay, so that's the kind of change that is actually easy to implement. This is something that we set by default in the selectors that are available, and we can see that there's already one Uno native web view that is defined. So we can probably just adjust that one and set it properly. So if I go and select the web view again, not that one. Okay, so if I'm on the iframe and I add it here, it should be behaving the same way. There you go. So we're going to go and find out that native web view thing, and then we're going to add the user select on the side. So to test this out, we're going to be going to Visual Studio and open the Uno solution. Okay, McNets is saying I'm able to run the blank app, so the Windows blank app, but at a certain point I don't know exactly when it stops working. So if it stops working, it may be, so do you know, are you running it with the debugger or not? So if you're running it with the debugger, that may be caused by the fact that the debugger that's connected to the app is the right one. It's not the right one. Can you tell which debugger you're using in VS Code? Is it the mobile one? Is it the official .NET one? You know, which target are you using? Okay, so we're having our web view here. So let's go back on main. Okay, so if it's the default one, then in the launch.json, there's going to be a type. Let's see in there. Nope. So in launch.json here, there's going to be a type, and which type is used when you're selecting your configuration? Is it core CLR? Is it Uno? Okay, so now we're there. We need to open the solution using the Net9 profile, so that we're using the WebAssembly filter. And the WebAssembly filter is going to be this one. And we're going to try to find the Uno native WebView style. Not this one. No. Okay. Doesn't want me to select anything. Is it? Yeah, okay. So it's an Uno UI CSS there. And then we need to put user select none. So probably user select none, and it's going to prevent the selection from below to happen. So one of the things that we want to do in that kind of scenario is just to provide a way for our QA team to be able to validate that against standard scenario. So to do this, we're going to be creating a new sample here. I think we do have something about WebView somewhere in there. So we get WebView with headers. I don't think we have WebView2 there, but that's those are probably disabled. Actually, let's run the application. I don't remember. So that application is actually part of the build that we have in Uno. Let me find the name of that. Okay, so that's this one. So this is the sample app build that we have as part of the CI. So every build that goes onto master is going to end up here, and we can find we can test out the latest with the latest dev builds of Uno and see how it behaves. So we got the WebView, and yeah, it looks like it's only using WebView1, so it's not going to show anything up. Oh, we got WebView2. My apologies. So we got WebView2 here. So that one's not doing anything. WebView2 alert. Okay, so we have we have an alert here. It's a anchor navigation. I don't know what that one does. Folder, mail to, navigate to URI. Okay. So it looked like this test is doing anything. Probably not working there. WebView2 title. Okay, so it is loading something below. I wonder if it's not updated, because it's supposed to be working. So I'm wondering. No, it's working. So there's probably a few other things that aren't working there. Probably because of the fact that it's loading there from a separate site. Okay, so if we go back to our sample here, there should be WebView2, but I don't see it. So maybe it's in another place. Let's see. WebView2. Oh, it's in WebView2 test and Microsoft XAML controls. Okay, so we're gonna use those. So we're gonna make a separate test, and this one we're gonna call WebView2 Archer selection. That would look good. And okay, I think we're going to have to add the files manually. And we're going to replicate the behavior that we saw in the other tests. So just by putting a slider in the same way that it was specified here. So large enough so that it shows up below the WebView2 to make sure that we are not having any selection that doesn't show up. So we need to set it a width. Let's put it to 100. And then that's it. So we're going to start the app again, but this time from the local build, and we're going to see if we can repro the issue. We can not repro the issue, and we're going to be good. So the idea here is that we're going to mark that test with a text that says how to repro the issue, and when the QA team is going to validate that behavior, they're going to find using that specific one for the manual tests only. They're going to be able to see which tests can be tested manually with what to test. So on description, we say when clicking the button remove, it should not throw an exception, things like that. So that's the kind of thing. So we're going to be doing the same thing here and saying if you're on web and you're sliding the slider, there should not be any kind of blue selection that shows up at the top. And we should be good there. So at least that's an easy bug to fix. It's not something that kind of is unrelated to Uno. So it could have been something like, selecting content below or selecting something inside, and then, would not make sense. But it's interesting to see that you can actually select a web view as part of a of a standard text selection. I'm not sure if it's super useful, but it's part of a DOM element tree. It's a tree. It's an element inside of the DOM tree. So that's why it's selectable. So it makes sense to not make it selectable because it's useless in our context, and particularly because it's not possible on Windows either. You cannot select a control like this. It's not part of a tree that's selectable. Okay, so it's building. It's rebuilding its own cache. We're good. So it may be failing now that I think about it, because I copied the test, so it's not going to work properly. Yeah, because the name is incorrect. Actually, it should have failed. Not too sure why it didn't. It's quite interesting. Probably didn't build that one. Okay, so let's make another. So it's WebView outer selection. And in outer selection, we should be having the right name here. We get a navigate to string, which is correct. Okay, that's a new error. That's probably something that comes up from the preview. I don't remember which preview I have. Oh, preview 1. Okay, so they changed quite a few things inside of that new preview. That particular message box is new. It's showing up an error coming from the source generators. That's going to be useful. Sometimes it's completely hidden, so it doesn't tell you what's happening. Not too sure if it rebuilt anything, but let's see. Our test here. No, it's not there. It looks like it's not building anything. So it's added as page. Oh, did I add it as a UI? No, it's a UI test. That's good. I wonder what's happening there. It's not picking up my file for some reason. So there are some things that were changed by Microsoft for Visual Studio with regards to temporary to project modifications in a project change. So if you have a project graph and you have A references B references C, then you might modify C, and it's not going to be revealing B and A, and that can cause some trouble. It's supposed to be disabled in the Uno solution here for debugging it, but it looks like there's still something wrong. It's still not picking up some of the changes, so I wonder if there's something else that we're missing here. Oh, that's why. So you can see that the modification for the shared project is not there. So that's why it's building and it's not doing anything. Okay, so it's supposed to be saved, but it looks like oh, that's very interesting. I wonder if there's something automatic in that particular file that makes it integrated. Let's reload the solution and see if the files are still there. Okay, so outer selection is still here. So if it's included automatically, it means that we have a globbing that picks the file up. Let's make an error. Let's see if it still builds, because it looks like something is allowing the project to build with errors. Oh yeah, okay, so it says outer selection is newer, so it's actually picked up, but it doesn't feel like it's built. It's building dependency. Okay, so definitely not, something's wrong there because it's not picking up the file. Okay, so let's go take a look at the internal of the file. So the unit test shared project here. To see what's happening. So the files are integrated into the project item file, but it looks like it's not included where it should. So that if we search for navigation properties, for instance, yeah, it's definitely there. Really looks like Visual Studio is playing tricks with us here, because it's supposed to be updating the project, but it's not. Include the file. Is the file becoming changed? Oh, there it is. There it is. It's changed. Okay, there. Okay, that works. So it looks like I added the file, but it didn't modify the project item file for the share project, so it kind of messed everything up. Okay, so there we go. So that should be good enough. Now this time, if we build the project and start it, it should be using the right outer selection feature. I see Gersik BKO. WebView, my beloved, does it work on Tizen? No, not yet. So, well, Tizen is something that people have not been asking that much. It's something that where, if someone is willing to help us contribute to the Tizen support, we may add it back. But for now, it's not something that's been asked enough. But I mean, Tizen supports WebAssembly, so you can run the WebAssembly version of it, which kind of works as well. So you should be able to make it work. Okay, so we get navigation properties. That's not the one that I wanted. I want the one with the outer selection. There we go. Okay. And then now we're selecting things. Okay, so I have not set the text. I'm gonna probably just remove all of this. It's not useful. And we're gonna be setting some text. We're not gonna be navigating to string. Actually, we could, but let's use an actual page instead. And for source, load. There's no load. There's no load callback anyway, so it's not going to be used. So we can remove that part as well. And then in the source here, we're going to be going for platform.uno. And with this, we should be seeing that the selection is effectively not happening anymore, even if we select the slider again. We have a lot of files in that sample app. That's why it takes a bit of time. Even with a faster machine, it still takes a bit of time to build. Okay, and if we go back to our recent, so outer selection, so it's well, it's a bit too small, so we're probably just not showing the right things here. But anyways, the point is that we shouldn't be having anything selected. That's correct. And also, when we're going to the element, and we validate that the iframe really has the user select none that we were worried about. So that one was removed. Oh, even if it's removed, it's not selecting. That's interesting. I wonder if there's something else. Let's say if I refresh this page. Move up a bit. Yeah, user select none is still. So it's not selecting. It's interesting. So it doesn't repro in that particular context. So maybe there's something else that was specified originally in the sample. We had a slider, a web view. Maybe it's the size, or maybe it's the alignment that is doing this. Let's take exactly what was there originally. I'm gonna take that exact code and try to repro. So we don't need the mux anymore because it's something that was not useful before. Source stack panel is not useful either. So I wonder if it's I copied the slider exactly, so it should not have been that. So maybe it's the size of the web view. Maybe it needs to be bigger than the slider that's above. That slider is that's below. Maybe there's definitely something related to the selection, to the type of selection. So let's see. Okay, so that now we have the fix included. So let's remove the fix. Still not selecting. That's interesting. So I wonder if there's something else that that causes this to happen. Maybe it's a another type. Maybe it's because it's at the root. Maybe because I placed everything else as it was. So interesting. So the repro is not clear. There's something else that needs to happen for that particular problem to repro, or it may be because the application of the style doesn't happen. Happens always. Maybe if I remove the the fix from the CSS file, maybe it's must not be included originally. Let's try. So we need to be able to repro the issue, because if we can't, then that's gonna be a problem. So because it may regress in the future. So we always want to make sure that we are not regressing those features. So now it's building a bit more because I modified the CSS file, so it needs to be re-included in the separate files that we have in between. We might be changing that in the future. The way additional files are included. For right now, we're including them as part of embedded resources that are removed at the end. But we may end up changing it to make the build a bit faster, so that they become kind of content transitive assets, and then they get copied at the right places without having to be duplicated. That's what happened. That's not what's happening right now. Okay. Oh, nope. Not the right one. No, there's definitely something else that that happens there. Oh, actually, we can see that we can select everything up. So if we That's interesting. If we select there, it shows up as selected. So, but it doesn't show up as a selection that way. I wonder if it's because there's toolkit integrated in there. Because the thing is that that application is using material, so maybe it's related to material. We can't really use material in that sense, so maybe that's related. But we can try to select the control, and then it shows up as selected. So that may be something that we can fix, explain when fixing it. So let's just quickly to validate that theory. If we go to the iframe and then we put back the select none. Okay, there we go. So we can't select it anymore, which is what we wanted. Okay. That is great. Okay, so that's another way. The issue is probably related to a material, and we'll probably just validate that assumption very quickly. And if we just rebuild that application and see if it happens also with that version. Yeah, this is okay. So this is specifically something happening with material. Okay. So modifying the selection there is going to help. Maybe because we have multiple items in there. I don't know exactly what happens there. Anyways, we have a fix, we have a repro, so that's good. And we have a way to reproduce it properly and explain how to do it. This is something that we're going to be able to add in there, here, in the description. So saying it's a manual test. And also say that, we have a description there saying that when trying to select the slider as if it were text, the web view should not become selected blue overlay. There we go. We have it. So we have our selection here. We have our fix. We know that if we remove the user select, then the web view is not going to get selected, and we're going to have the right behavior. So that's it. That's going to be the PR. It's going to be an easy one. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed that session. It was interesting. We got to do a bit of Linux and then do a bit of web. And until next week. So next week I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be at the MVP Summit. So it's going to be fun. And hope to see a lot of other MVPs there. And so I'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, happy coding and bye for now.